Good evening, everyone. If you could begin to take your seats. Thank you. And let us show we do have quorum. 1, 2, 3, 5 present. Okay, so we have now finished the portion of the meeting that is public comment, and I do believe, as this is quasi-judicial, now would be the appropriate time for the applicant to have rebuttal.
Absolutely.
Okay. Sir?
Good evening, Vice Mayor, members of the Commission. Again, for the record, Brian Seymour. I'm an attorney for the applicant. I'm going to be brief, I promise. There's a couple of things just that I want to sort of to remind, and the first is I am not going to get into all of the public health questions that have been raised. You have a report done by public health experts. And again, these are not just people. This is people who've made their career on these issues. A lot of the discussion was about noise. And there was, nobody, by the way, said it was wrong. No one said that the information provided in the reports was incorrect. There were questions that were raised. These reports, by the way, have been with the county since April. The information has been available since April. So if there's more that's wanted, or someone could hire an expert to do their own study, they certainly could have done that. But the questions that were raised are answered by your conditions. Because at the end of the day, when staff said we want a condition of approval that guarantees that what you say in your noise reports is going to be accurate, we said okay. And that's in a condition. So you are not just relying. Many people say you can't rely on these experts, which you can. These are, again, world-leading experts. We have said we're going to literally step up, and we are going to take those points again. We're going to redo the study. They'll get reviewed. And then if the operations show that the noise levels are beyond what was proposed, what's currently there, basically, then it gets dropped back. There's a discussion about the closed loop system. That is part of this. That is going to be this. It wasn't we think we're going to do it. We've told you we're going to do it. That's part of the analysis. The noise analysis that was done, in fact, was the whole property. It was the whole project. And I mentioned that this morning as the one thing that, because of the way they do that, they did. So taking one piece out of context does not show that. And so we know that this is emotionally charged. We understand that issue. At the end of the day, we're talking about 280,000 square feet of the data and information processing. And I understand there's the question of hyperscale and large and the energy usage and all that was done. We are limited to what is in your code, but we did not actually stop at what was in your code. That, Vice Mayor, is why you see all those conditions. Not because it's not okay, but because we heard all of the questions and we're willing to answer them. And that happens in development all the time. You see single-family residential next to single-family residential where you get decreased density and increased buffers because people have concerns. That doesn't make it inappropriate. It's trying to work through the best we can with those issues, and that's exactly what's been done here. So the last thing I want to point out about this is a lot of points are made about data centers, not about this proposal. Because we know that you can't have gone to a data center that would give you an example of what this will be, because this design has not yet fully occurred and been built. It has been designed based on what's known and the problems that occurred at those other centers. So when you hear about impacts, again, we talked about this morning, some of those are 150 feet away, not 2,300 feet away. They are totally different system sets. And so all we can look at in this, particularly in this quasi-judicial hearing today, is what your code requirements are and are they met? And we did go further than that, and we are committing to that. We did commit to that 850-foot setback for any data and information processing use so that those warehouses would not be converted. So again, we've tried to do this based on the concerns of the neighbors. We've tried to do this based on everything we've heard. We've gone above and beyond from what the code requires, but at the end of the day, in this quasi-judicial process, all of the evidence, all of it, is consistent with the code. And so we ask for your approval today. And we understand it's challenging. We understand that it's a hot button political issue all over the country and people are reacting to that. But today we're on one limited project with very much a specific subset of facts. And those facts and those conditions are what's before you today. So we do have our experts. If there are questions about the public health, about more about the noise or whatever there may be, they're happy to answer your questions. But with that, we do ask for your vote this evening.
Okay, now we enter the part of board discussion and any questions. So Commissioner Marino's light is the first one on. Please go.
Well, I was just going to say there were a lot of questions that came up, and you were writing the questions down. I'm happy to cede the floor to you to ask those questions, and then if there are some more, I'm sure the board will jump on board.
Okay, happy to. Although several of the questions I believe would be related to FPL, and I think the representative left. There were questions about power outages in Arden. What about if a hurricane comes and there are storm outages? There were 4 power bumps that were listed. I believe those were all of the ones for FPL, which I'm assuming we do not have an answer at this point. Okay. The other one was going to be, and the applicant or even our own department could probably answer about PFAS in the coolants. Do we have a water expert or Ali is, oh, he's over here. There we go.
They have an expert too.
Actually, we could hear from our staff and the expert. I think that would be helpful to hear from both. So if you'd like to.
Good afternoon, good evening, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. So the question on the wastewater.
Please identify yourself, sorry. Thank you.
So I'm Ali Bayat, Palm Beach County Water Utility Director. I'm also professional engineer, environmental engineering in the state of Florida. So going back to the question of the PFAS, I think that question was more related to the wastewater, that if they use the coolant and get discharged of the wastewater, where that goes, we'll put a condition as part of the condition that we propose that the wastewater should not come back to the county. They have to tell us where they're gonna haul it away. It has to go to industrial wastewater treatment facility, and they need to share with us that facility's name and also the permit for that facility to make sure it gets treated and disposed properly. That's one of the conditions. We have more conditions on it, but that was one of them.
So to be clear, any water, and this is just the closed loop system,
Closed loop
water
system,
cooling.
correct.
When the time comes that they have to flush that, they're going to put it onto trucks and take it some other place, but they also have to tell us where. It has to be an environmental approval.
Correct. So we ask for that information for transparency to make sure that gets disposed properly.
And it will not be flushed into our system.
No, and we had that conversation really clear with the applicant, this one and the other one, so that all the wastewater facilities under the county purview, we're not gonna accept no wastewater, even if they haul it and they're gonna come back, that's not gonna happen.
Okay. Is there a response from the applicant on that? I mean, I think that kind of takes care of it, but if you'd like to respond to the PFAS?
We're in agreement. We went through an extensive review with the water department, and there will be no PFAS, and it will not go back into the system.
Okay, thank you. With that, this would probably be for the sound experts. We had a specific question on Hertz.
Sure, Mark Bastash again. So Hertz were shown in that table that I had shared, that table 5-1, which is from the report. It showed the octaband frequencies in Hertz from 31.5 Hertz to 8,000 Hertz. And so we have the Hertz information for all the equipment, and that was used as the basis of the model, and that's consistent with the ISO 9613 standard.
Okay.
That is the sound standard that we use for doing the modeling. So I don't have my slides here, but the Hertz, okay, so if we go back, is there a remote? Okay, thank you. Oh, pretty close. So this 31.5, 63, 125 to 8,000, those are hertz. Those are known as the octave band center frequencies. And then what we show below is the spectrum or the sound level in each frequency. And then the overall A-weighted level is one way to look at that, and that's in the overall column. You can also look at it as an overall DBC or any other metric. But what we summarize there is all based off of the octave band center frequency.
So can you help us understand in maybe a little more layman's terms
Sure.
on the difference between these types of measurements and what the significance on humans would be for Hertz?
Hertz is, if you're musically inclined, which I'm not, middle C on a piano is around 250 hertz. And so
I'm not musically inclined.
it's pitch. So hertz is the pitch. It's the pitch of the sound. And high frequency sounds have a higher number in hertz, and low frequency sounds have a lower number in hertz. So that's
So what
hertz.
is that impact on the human, and where do you fall, and where does the project fall in that?
So what we look at there in terms of how we summarize that is we look at overall levels in terms of dBA or dBc, which is what Dr. Bronner was talking about, because the dBA and dBc differentiate the frequency content. And
If I may, DBZ was also brought up.
So DBZ is very similar to DBC. It is just another weighting scale. So the way that we look at things acoustically tends to be in dBA and dBc, and the criteria that Dr. Bronner had developed was a dBc criteria. He could have developed a dBz criteria. It would have just come up with a different number. You can choose whichever scale you want to use as your metric. The most common scale would be for low frequency would be dBc.
Okay, Commissioner Flores, did you have a question on this?
I have questions.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Powell would like to address this.
Thank you for that. As you talk, we heard questions with regard to low frequency sounds and vibrations and it being able to travel. How far can low frequency sounds travel that will to have an impact on things like in the equestrian area, such as horses? Because there was a comment with regard to horses will be jumpy because these low frequency sounds can travel to impact. Do they? And there's been some concerns that these sounds can travel miles, and it's low buzzing and humming that would impact horses in the Wellington area. Is that possible?
First, I would just point out what we're seeing in terms of existing low frequency sound levels. Right, so if we look at what we see in terms of existing low frequency sound levels, so the measured levels on the right-hand side, which would be the LCEQ. So we saw that measured levels range between 63 and 72. So that's out there now, just like when we did our little measurement in here and we came up with 59 or 58. So that's out there now. What we're saying is we're projecting that we're going to be at 56. So we're projecting we're less than the existing. So if you're okay, if your horses are okay now,
I get you, but the concern is, like, even right now, I can hear the computers. I don't know if I hear the air system. I hear noise in the background. I always hear it. The concern is that low frequency sounds from a proposed data center would be different from the sounds that we hear here, that the low impact sounds that we hear every day, just background noise. There was even someone who said, think about white noise at 55 dBs. So, you know, the concern is the sound emitted by a data center different from what I hear right now? I mean, I hear I know y'all hear that. Y'all hear it? Okay, everybody hears those sounds.
So
And I hear, so is it similar or is it different? Because,
what you have out there now as a power plant has fans. We will also have fans. So it's going to be generally similar in character. Now, there may be some differences, but the nature of some of the sources are very similar. There are fans out there now, and we are also going to have fans. Our fans don't have water running through them. And then what we're seeing here too is on an overall DVC basis, we're substantially less than what is out there now.
okay.
Yeah, sure.
If I could, though, just to clarify, because it's an excellent point, it was brought up a few times. This wasn't in relation to humans, though. Animals hear things very differently. I know my dogs hear stuff way before I do, and that was the concern about the horses, that their hearing is much different than ours. Could you address that?
Yes, Madam Vice Chair, just give me a second. I'm going to, where Mark is that? Other way. All right. Where am I pointing this to, and can I go back? There. Oh, this one? That one, okay, perfect. Okay, thanks. Okay, so, Madam Vice Chair and Commissioners, I'm gonna try to do this as succinctly as possible, but also try to answer your questions. So, Madam Vice Chair, as you said, if you look at those hertz, right? So as Mark was saying, or Mr. Bassers was saying, if you're playing the piano at the very low end, where you know the Jaws theme, the do-do-do-do, that is low frequency noise. That's about 20 hertz, okay, down in that range. If you're playing way up at the other end of the piano, the really high pitched keys, that's at around the 4,000 hertz range. So that's kind of, and then everything in between. So when we look at things like, you know, animals, your dogs, when they hear things we don't hear, that's way up, well past the 8,000. So that's in the very far side, which we're not going to have pitches anywhere near that from a data center for the fans here and the like. And Commissioner, as you were asking about, and I'll get to the horses and everything in a sec, as you're asking in terms of like, you know, the fans we're hearing here, or, you know, I shut up again, that is more dominated in sort of that less, you know, kind of less than 1,000 hertz, kind of more in that sort of 250, maybe 125. So you are hearing low frequency noise from that. And as Mr. Bastos was saying, there's nothing unique about a data center and the fans in a data center. It's the same thing as we have fans on warehouses, we have fans, you know, the big fans right here on top of this building for the air conditioner on top of this building, they're emitting similar types of noises we're going to have from the data center. The question is, so how far does the low frequency noise go? It is true that the lower down that you go in those hertz ranges in the low frequency noise, it can travel further than the noise. It doesn't dissipate as quickly as the noise up in the higher frequencies. The key isn't how far it can travel, is what is the level that it's at when it goes that distance. So when you look at the, you know, things like horses, when we have this in other data centers, somebody raised tonight about livestock and others, we certainly understand the issue and we're very careful about looking at designing. The level that we're going to have, and as Mark was showing here, so if we stay this, now this is the DBA, but it's equally true of the DBC, it's just going to look a little bit different. That as you're close to the buildings, you're going to be, you can see the line that it's about 60 there. As you get even before the property line, that's where we get to the 50. This is under the worst case conditions. And this is what meets, as Commissioner Weiss was asking, the 50 decibels at night. When we look at the health report for the people in the community of Arden, you can see right kind of where those purple dots are, where those monitoring stations that were done just on the east side of the canal before we get to Arden. You see the line that says 45. From a health basis, what we're primarily concerned about for audible noise, and then equally true for the DBC, which we'll get to in a second, is first and foremost the reason you have different noise levels in your regulation depending on time of day. We want to make sure that people are going to get a good night's sleep. I don't say that facetiously. One of the biggest causes of concern for excessive noise and health is that people can't sleep. And if you've all done it where you've had a couple sleepless nights and you feel like crap, you know, go with the medical term crap, you feel like crap, you don't exercise, you're not eating well, imagine going through that for very prolonged periods of time. That is why your ordinance has a 50 decibel at night. We're going to be even below that at less than 45, even on the folks who are living on the west edge of Arden. That is well below standards either here in the U.S., whether it's the World Health Organization, Health Canada, around the world medical agencies agree. That's going to protect people's health. In terms of for the horses and the like, these levels, as you can see, when we get to the, let's say, to the west side where we've got 50, and then we're into 45 when we're into the sugarcane fields and that, we're going to be far below anything. And again, horses, cows, everything else, livestock are used to ambient sounds and noise. It's going to be far below a level from this data center, even on the property. You could have horses on the property, you could have them around the area. So when we look at the DBA, when we look at the low frequency noise, the reason why this facility, and I have visited numerous data center facilities. I've worked on numerous data center facilities. I've also turned down working for data centers because they don't have codes and standards like you folks do for noise limits. There are, quite frankly, data centers, small ones. The larger ones tend to be better designed, but smaller ones that are 150, 250 people's homes that are far too loud, create excessive community noise, and probably should not be in operation. So when we look at this center, because of the way the equipment's inside the buildings, because of the low-speed fans they're using, because we're not going to have those big water cooling towers that you see on the FPL, not to say that it's wrong, but the FPL site, we're not doing that, so we have very little noise and the separation distance.
Okay, Commissioner Flores had a follow-up question.
Yeah, it's regarding this chart. Earlier, one of the gentlemen who spoke about sound, I questioned him on he was giving some expert opinion based on a chart that looks different than this one. I guess it was used, and our attorney confirmed that it had been used in the zoning, that particular chart. When I looked at that chart, the measurements, the outer ring and the second to last outer ring, the numbers differed from what is presented here. Those were higher.
Yeah, Commissioner Flores, I'm not sure where that, I'll be honest.
But it was used by you guys.
Well, and I'll come back to
So
Mr. Cox.
why is your own math or your own study different?
So I'll come back to Mr. Cox to speak to that because we weren't part of producing that. I believe Mr. Cox was. What I can tell you is this is the figure directly out of the sound report that Mr. Bastash produced. This is the work that myself, Dr. McConey, and Dr. Bronner relied on. The report that was filed with you in April. So perhaps I'll let Mr. Cox talk about what that other graph was.
Hello. Yes, Commissioner Flores, Ernie. We have done a number of iterations of the project, and so, as you may recall, December, they were requested to put together a study, and we did some very preliminary work that we used actually in a webinar that we did to try to pass some information. And then we gathered additional information on the sound, and we also continued to make improvements. So one of the things that we've directed as the project manager, I've directed the staff, let's gather data, let's run models, and then let's evaluate and determine if things can be improved. And so the simplest way, I'm going to use the Ernie way. You can buy a table fan, and it can blow air, and it's loud. And you can buy another table fan that blows the same amount of air, and it's quiet. And so as these guys have been iterating the design, we've been saying, wait a minute, we've got to do better.
Okay.
And so that's how the numbers, my expectation is that as we do the next sound study, it will iterate that again. And then most importantly, I think, is we'll keep sharing the information and data and results, but the most important one is what is there now, and under the condition that staff has proposed, we cannot exceed that.
Okay, so you're saying that you have gone back, looked at efficiencies to make the noise lesser, is that correct? Between April and today?
We're continuing to iterate the plan, yes, sir.
Okay, and I'm going to ask staff something real quick. Are we approving their systems today?
The noise, no,
We don't approve systems, right?
no.
We approve the most buffer that we're adding to this is a conditional of approval with sound decibels or whatever it's called. Let me see, I'm going to pull it up here.
But Commissioner and staff, perhaps I might add, I believe there is a condition that requires a final sound study to be completed. So once the final selection and the site plan is done, the equipment has been selected and ordered, and before construction, and I look to staff, I believe there is a condition that requires that the final trued up model is completed. And then in addition to that, once the project's constructed, we then, or the proponent has to go back then and actually prove up with actual measurements, not just the modeling, that all of the things that we said came true. Staff, is that correct? That there is one more prior to final approval, right, in terms of plan?
So basically, what I'm getting at, you guys can make adjustments. You guys can play with this to make it more efficient or less efficient or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, what we approve is the conditions of approval, which basically dictates that the maximum is 75 dBs. Is that how we?
So our condition number 2 under noise is related to the A weighting. And at the residential property line, we have maximums. And there's maximums at certain times of day as well. And then we have an additional condition that was added as it relates to the C rating, that it can't be any higher than what it is right now.
Okay, so I guess my concern is that the previous study, or that previous chart that I saw, the decibels, I guess, were higher. Now these are lower. But the threshold here is, it could be 75, it could be 60, 55, 50 depending on different time ranges. So that's of concern to me, that today we have no control over what equipment you're going to use. You're telling me that you tuned things, you made it better, but you guys really don't know because you guys haven't really done it yet.
So a couple of things. First of all, it's not different. If you look at actually the line on the property itself where the 50 is, that's what was shown earlier. It didn't show the Arden property, which is what we're actually trying to look at. So you go piece by piece. Where the 50 is that was shown on the graphic, I did not get the gentleman's last name, but
I asked you earlier, point blank, and you said, well, I don't know this.
No. It was, I said it's not the same as this. That graphic is not the same. But then if you look at the line where the 50 is, that's on the property that's at issue, not on the property line at where Arden or the school would be. So the point was, it was a little misleading as to the point of where the measurement matters.
Okay.
And so that's where the difference really was. But this is based on that information. So if next week a better fan comes out that reduces the decibel levels more, we could use that fan. But ultimately, if we don't design what we say we're going to design, which is a multi-billion-dollar investment to build, there will be no operation. Because if we're wrong, then there will be no noise, because, well, we already had this no noise, but there will be no operation of the use on site that we're asking for today, because we wouldn't have met the noise requirement at both DBA and DBC. So that's the actual protection, because the issue is, it's sort of like the same thing about what chips you use. The question is not, is it today's chip or yesterday's chip or tomorrow's chip or next week's chip or 2 years from now's chip? It's what is the resulting impact, and that's why we did these models, and we're confident with the pieces that we're going to put in place and the experts that have done them, and that's why we brought in the guys who literally wrote the standards to say we'll agree to that condition after spending billions of dollars to build these things. And that's the key factor that this ultimately comes down to.
So these decibels, the measurements? Because we have the maximum levels, right? Is that what I'm seeing here? Where are they going to be measured from? From the purple dots there, or what?
So we included in the conditions where they measure them from at the property line and specific distances apart. The recorded measurement shall be completed along the property line at the maximum interval of 400 feet, completed at varying times over a 24-hour period. So we included that in the how they measure it.
And I'm sorry, I know this is a follow-up question, but it's like a rabbit hole. Is our code compliance trained and equipped to do sound studies and measurements, and who bears the responsibility of proving that this is
Zoning.
so? We bear the responsibility to prove that they are not.
Well, we have to prove it. The
We
review.
prove it and we verify it.
They verify, and I will tell you, if you want to add to the condition that we will reimburse the county for
I'll take it. Absolutely, you put that in writing already.
Yeah, no,
Thank you. I appreciate
we'll
that.
reimburse the county to hire their own expert to verify. No problems. If you needed to hire an outside expert, we'll reimburse. Not pay them, not hire them, but reimburse directly.
Would that be an additional condition? Okay.
One last comment or question, or I don't even know. When I buy a brand new car, it sounds so quiet. 5-6 years into that same car, it starts making noises. It gets a little louder. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
Is that going to occur here? Is
Over time, what happened? There's no chance I'm answering that question because that is a very highly technical question, but I'll ask Mr. Bassett to sort of talk about the impact of time.
right? Because you're going to buy the latest model right now, but in 5 years, is that it's going to get clunky? It's going to get
If there's some rebalancing that would need to be occurred, the fans and everything would have vibration sensors and other sensors. So if there is some vibration or other aspects that start to result in abnormal conditions, then that would have to that could be rectified. That could be fine-tuned or whatnot. So the fans here.
So what's you said it could be rectified. How quickly? So I'm going through this scenario in my head. There is a code issue. The neighbors have complaints. We go out there. We find that it's a little loud. How long does it take to fine tune?
That part I couldn't give you a timeline on.
Okay.
Could I ask a follow-up to?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, and it's a question that I was going to ask, but now would seem to be the right time. How much history do we have with a similar system as what you are proposing?
So they're asking Mr. Davidson. I also want to add to the point, Commissioner Flores, that if we can't meet it and we have to shut down, we have to shut down, right? That's our problem. So it is incumbent on us to keep up with it, keep up. So if someone said, well, that's going to take, a month, we don't have a month. We have to meet the standard. We got to deal with it pretty quick because we always have to meet the code. It doesn't stop at one particular point or another. So, again, there's no, it would be really bad for the operator for that to
Commissioner
occur.
Flores? Yeah.
So
I hear you say shut down, but usually when there are code issues, what most people do is they just take the fines.
not on.
Fines. They accumulate, then they come back and they ask for forgiveness. That's
So-
usually what happens in code compliance.
I don't think usual is correct. I think you may see that part of it when it comes to you, if it ever comes to you. Usually people comply. And particularly when it comes to something like noise, it's something that typically can be complied with fairly quickly, right? So it's not a situation where someone's arguing, well, I'm a grandfathered use and the code doesn't apply and you have to go to hearings. There's all kinds of things that are totally unrelated to this context. And obviously you have lots of legal remedies going into the code rules too. So do we have?
That may need to be an additional condition, but if I could get an answer to the question for the.
Maybe just repeat the question, just so I answer
Well,
correctly.
you're proposing this water cooling system with the fans that are going to be above it. I mean, we had
dry
a whole
coolers.
presentation about it. And, we even asked, I think there's a place in, maybe you said Arizona that's using it right now. So how much history is there for a similar system?
Outside of
years?
data centers, just in other applications, dry cooler has been in use in the US since the late 60s, 1960s.
Okay, data centers have been around a long time too. I'm asking about specifically this type because it seems like this is some brand new, amazing technology that you're going to use to save water so we don't have to do evaporative cooling.
It's not a new technology. Like I say, a dry cooler has been in use, commercial use, since the 1960s.
Being applied to the data center.
So how can you only give me one example in Arizona?
So there's two different questions being asked, because one is the system use, the other is use with a data center.
Okay,
And so
that is the question. I'm sorry I didn't
Yeah.
word it correctly.
So
That
you
is my
want it
question.
only as to use in a data center specifically, not
Yes.
whether it was used in other types of things. So that's more recent.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the projects that I'm involved with and my firm are involved with, we've been using dry coolers pretty consistently over the last 5 years.
So we have about a 5-year history because, to Commissioner Flores' point, his car works really great for 5 or 6 years. So we're about at that time frame.
Yeah.
Well, can I?
But I would maybe just add to that if that's okay.
I have a Jeep, so I get 6 years, but go ahead.
Obviously, data center operators are looking at predictive maintenance as part of their maintenance. They're analyzing the data, they're analyzing the runtime. They're not waiting to hear something and then take it into the garage. In the example of the car, that they're going in to do the servicing before there becomes a problem in the majority of cases.
Can I don't know the answer to this question, but I do think it's relevant. But Fergus, is the system different because it's a data center? Is this something we don't really know, or because it's been used in other contexts, is it something that you still know how it works, and it works the same in the data center based on the ones you've had for the last 5 years? So that.
The operation of the dry cooler, the equipment that sits on the roof with the fan, is the same as in applicable technologies. There's nothing special about it being in a data center.
Okay, I think it's just the scale that has me concerned, but Commissioner Sachs has a follow-up question.
I just want to follow up on what my colleagues, Commissioner Flores and Vice Mayor, have requested. How many data centers have you tested this on?
The dry coolers?
The noise situation. Well, who's our expert here on noise? Mr. Seymour is, I'll bet.
Sorry.
Yeah, you got a lot of noise. So how many data centers have you tested this on?
Yeah, Commissioner, data centers have so there's been testing on data centers for decades, okay, for noise specifically, because there are, and hear me out for a second, Commissioner, from
I'm not
smaller,
saying anything.
okay,
You're right.
smaller data centers right up to the larger ones, right? It is true over the last 5, maybe 7 years, we are getting larger data centers and that we're putting bigger warehouses, trying to, instead of having, because the alternative is for 600 megawatts, instead of having the building size you're looking at here, instead of having, the half dozen buildings or whatever it is, the data center number of buildings, then you'd be building 5 megawatt data centers all over West Palm, right? So we have done sound testing on a number of the facilities. And that's why I said to you earlier, there are simply some data centers that are far too loud. And the reason we know that is both back to Commissioner Flores' point, people have complained, those that had to be tested, and therefore they had to be.
Which ones were too loud, sir?
There are a number that are in Virginia right now, and that's typically, this is where if you start Googling data centers and noise and the like, you're going to find Virginia was one of the first states heavily invested in having a lot of data centers. And there are facilities within there where there are lawsuits and everything else that can't go in. We can provide you with a list. But the reality is that these are the ones that are 150 feet from people's homes. These are the ones where the sound level in the past would have been.
I don't need to have the
decibels.
whole history of Virginia, but let me ask you something. And this goes on to what my colleagues have been asking. Of the scope that you want to build at Arden, which data centers have you been to and tested to tell us your professional opinion as to noise today?
Yes, I mean, I could pull out my phone and start listing them off to you, but I can tell you states at least, Commissioner. Like,
No, sir,
I'll give
my
you-
question, shall I repeat it? Which data centers have you been to test your professional opinion that you're giving today that is of the scope and the magnitude that you wish to build at Arden today?
The first one that I can tell you about is Pryor in Oklahoma, where Google has a very large, much larger than this data center. It's been in operation for years, been expanded. There are others, again, in Virginia.
What city in Oklahoma? So
Pryor, ma'am.
Pryor, P-R-Y-O-R, Pryor,
Yes, I believe that's
Oklahoma,
I believe
has a
that's the
large
name.
data center.
Ma'am.
You've been to it, and you've heard it, and you know that, you know about the noise so that you can give us your expert opinion.
Yes, ma'am. And then.
Okay, good. All right.
Yes.
Are there any,
Go ahead.
no, that's
Sorry.
okay. Are there any data centers of this magnitude in the state of Florida that you could refer to?
That I'm not sure, ma'am. I turn back to maybe some of the other engineers of that. I don't know if Florida has.
Are you the expert on noise, or aren't you testifying
Oh,
today?
but
to
ma'am,
that?
what I'm saying is this is the first, I've worked in 7 states now on data centers. This is my first data center in Florida, so I'm not aware of which data centers are in Florida, where they're located. Specifically for this one, I'm not sure if anybody else knows.
No, it's okay. I'm asking you
Yep,
because
sure.
you're giving this testimony. So we have a particular type, when you're talking about Arizona and water, it's a big difference between Arizona and Florida and water. And I would imagine that Oklahoma, Pryor, Oklahoma, is a lot different in noise. Did they need to hire experts to help them to conform their very loud data center so that it would be manageable?
So no, let me be clear, Commissioner. I didn't say that it was very loud. You asked me where I had been, where testing's been done, and where we know that it's a properly sited
I
facility.
think I asked you where there was one that was very loud, sir,
Okay,
that they
sorry.
had to manage it.
You'd asked me about, okay, I apologize. What Pryor was actually, it's a much larger facility. It's well over a gigawatt or 1,000 megawatts facility. It's been there for a while. And what I'm saying is that we know from that experience, and again, it is water cooled. There's all sorts of different things going on with that. The industry has moved to, the reason why the industry moved to the water circulation is not for the noise. It was not the noise. That's for the water consumption issue. That was for the
I'm not
the
talking
towers.
about water, I'm talking about noise.
Right. And
So you went to the one in Oklahoma, Pryor, Oklahoma, and it was too loud. What did
Sorry.
they do to manage it?
It was not too loud, ma'am. What I'm
Oh, well, let me rephrase this, because it's almost 8 p.m.
Yes.
And I don't know why it is that you're having difficulty understanding me. I will speak slower. Is there a data center that you visited that you can base your professional opinion on today, that the noise was so loud that they were able to mitigate it?
I have been to data centers, specifically in this case, Virginia, smaller data centers, where in my professional opinion, the noise was too loud in the community itself.
And what did they do to
so
mitigate
I was
it?
not involved in mitigation. I'm not aware of whether or not they've mitigated or not. What I can tell you, though, there are where I can tell you there's a data center in Wisconsin where upon commit, very
Sir,
similar.
I'm just asking for,
this is mitigation.
No, wait. Sir, I don't have 2 hours
Right.
to hear about your experiences visiting data centers. I wanted to know your personal experience in being at a data center, and the answer is you have never been to a data center where the noise was so loud but you knew that there were ways to mitigate the noise. You've never been to
there
one.
is a site in Wisconsin where that was the case.
You were
Upon-
there.
Upon commissioning.
Sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You were there.
Yes,
Where
Commissioner.
was it in Wisconsin that you went to, sir?
I'm trying to remember the name of the site. Like you, it's been many hours. I can get that for you if you give me a minute. But what happened was, upon commissioning of that data center, there were issues in terms of the commissioning, and they did rectify, and they did.
How did they mitigate
so
the noise?
again, the engineers went up and fixed the fans and did things like that.
So you
There
don't
was-
know how they did it?
I'm not the
I'll tell you
engineer-
why
I'm
I'm
not-
saying this.
ma'am, I'm not the
Because if
engineer
this
who
noise
fixed
is
the
too
things.
loud for the folks at Arden, I want to know How do we mitigate the noise? And you're not able to tell me that.
Perhaps one of the other experts can. I'm on the health side
Okay,
of saying
thank you.
whether
I
it's allowed or
appreciate
not.
your expert testimony. Thank you, sir. Okay.
Commissioner Powell, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question centered on the noise measurement requirements. Mr. Seymour indicated that if they don't meet the requirement, then they would obviously not start operating. However, when Flores questioned that, Commissioner Flores asked some questions, what I didn't get at was how often this noise testing will take place. It appears that it will be once, and that is twice, before they get started and then right after final set of operation. But after they do phase 2, if this were to be approved, would they have to, is there a requirement to have a noise test? And then Commissioner Flores indicated after 5 years, after a number of years, how often will it be tested? Because it doesn't, is that a part of the conditions? Because in 5 years,
I have a architectural condition number 1, the noise and vibration study shall be completed annually from the date of the first CO.
thank you, annually. Got it, okay. That's all I needed to know.
Sorry.
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
maybe you can jump in, but I do have another question. The gentleman, the expert, I don't know where he went, but he had indicated heat islands because of the cooling fans. Are these heat islands going to be, I mean, because it's, I feel like there was a heat island earlier, but we're talking about now, there you go, these heat islands that data centers are creating. Is that a phenomenon that's continuing to happen where these data centers are creating heat islands? And then there was also a question or a comment about, I'm sorry, I'm on a roll, but the heat island and data centers catching on fire.
Okay, so Commissioner, I'll take the heat island one first, and we'll figure out the fire one in a second. So again, in the health report, that 58-page report we gave you, we do have a description on heat island effect. Unfortunately, the heat island issue came out from a poorly constructed paper that was never peer reviewed, never actually went through the scientific process in the UK, where some of the computer scientists claim that you might have a 2-degree increase in temperature from these facilities and up to 15 degrees. It's not the case. What we see is for facilities like this, where are you going to get the heat from? It's going to come from that exhaust fan, right? So in the chiller system, in the closed loop system, they eventually, as they're trying to do the heat exchange, from the dry heat exchange, from the fans, it'll go up into the air. So there will be, right above the fans, there will be a couple temperature degree change right above the fans. What we see typically, it is certainly with the separation distance you folks have here, when we looked at it from the health perspective, because of course we don't want to increase ambient temperatures around the area, that would not be a good thing, and we don't anticipate any change, any marketable increased change in the temperature, certainly at Arden, and likely not even at the property line. So there's no scientific peer-reviewed papers that say that yes, this is the increase in temperature. And again, if you think about other large heat exchange buildings, warehouses, and the like that are similar, we don't see that effect occurring. So we will not be increasing the temperature in the city of in the community of Arden, the school, or anywhere else.
Before you go to his second question, did you have a follow-up, or? Because I also have a follow-up.
I have a follow-up, but what was the other? I think.
It was
The fires.
It was the heat island question and the fires. And I would also ask you this. You said the temperature could raise 1 or 2 degrees. Potentially, does that impact the community, Arden, or the surrounding areas? Because 1 to 2 degrees may not seem significant. It may not be significant. But I always question this. You know what the difference between boiling water and steam is?
Yes, Commissioner.
1 degree.
Yeah, no, and Commissioner, so let me be clear. What I was saying is that we don't expect any increase in the community of Arden or at the school. So there would be not a measurable increase. What I was saying is that immediately above the fans and potentially there. If you think about it this way, right, and the heat island is nothing new. If you think about today, right, it was hot outside. And if you're in a Walmart, all of us experience the heat island effect in our lives, right? If you're in the Walmart parking lot, it's 100 degrees out that day, okay? What happens is the heat island is really a city phenomenon, okay? And when you're in the city versus you're, in the sugarcane field just next door, there is a marked 5 to 10 degree temperature change at ground level in the air. Walmart parking lot, 100 degree day, it could be 115 degrees right there standing in the parking lot. If you think about when you then leave the parking lot, unfortunately I've done this because this is what I do for a living, but then you go off and let's say that there was a field next door to the parking lot, a soccer field, something like that, football field, that it dramatically decreases very quickly. So we do have heat islands. West Palm Beach here itself is going to be, on a day like today, is going to be somewhere between 5 and 10 degrees hotter in the air than if you were to go into the rural community just a couple miles outside or into the Everglades. So it is a real phenomenon. Unfortunately, it's got conflated with data centers, and what we're saying is that we are not going to have a marked temperature change in the community next door. So we are not going to impact the people in Arden. We will not have that adverse effect.
He was the gentleman you were asking. Did you want to hear from him, Commissioner Powell?
That's fine. You're going to explain the heat island to us or tell us he's wrong? What?
In a nutshell, yeah. So first, he claims there's no peer-reviewed research on the heat island effect of data centers. That's patently wrong. I submitted a report that cites a very prominent paper. It's entitled "The Data Heat Island Effect." It's written by many people, including the University of Cambridge. And what they found in that review, they reviewed thousands of data centers, hyperscale data centers. Now, I want to make the distinguish a hyperscale data center is 100 megawatts to about 300. They're proposing 600, which is still hyperscale, but it's on the higher end of data centers and amount of energy that they use. That directly translates to amount of heat that they need to handle through their heat exchanger and dissipate somewhere, whether it's the air, the island, the ground, somewhere. What that study found is in the thousands that they reviewed, they looked at the land surface temperature, which is temperature basically right on the ground, how that changed after those data centers were commissioned compared to 5 years of previous baseline data of the surrounding atmosphere. And what they found was the average, remember 100 to 300 megawatts, was 3.6 degree change in land surface temperature, which, as you correctly identified, 2 degrees, a mere 2 degrees, maybe that's not a big deal, except it is, because in climate change and in climate data, we're concerned about 2-year degree over years. This is 2 degrees with a flip of a switch. 3.6 next to these water bodies, which are the source of so many important waters in Palm Beach County, would be immense. That could drive something like a cyanobacteria bloom.
But let me ask you this question while you're there, and you answered that. The system, you said they reviewed thousands of data centers in the study?
Yeah, I'd have to read the paper.
They're using closed loop as well?
They use a variety of things. Most data centers are going to be used closed loop. Again, that's a term of art. It's not, as he pointed out, it's not like a new technology. It's not a fancy thing. Cars use closed loop systems. Nuclear power plants use closed loop systems. It's just a matter of transferring heat through a heat exchanger to something else.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner, if I might, that's the paper I was referring to as well. It is in our report. It's the Marioni et al. It's not actually a paper. They simply posted a pre-publication onto the internet and said, world, have at it. Let us know what you think about the paper. There's considerable controversy right now in the scientific world, including myself and others, that have significant concerns and do not believe the methodology was done correctly. There was no measurements. Essentially what they did was, there's a system out there where you can actually, from around the world, NASA has a system where you can actually go and look at the ground level temperature. As you say, it's ground level. It's the actual temperature of the ground itself versus the actual air, okay? The paper is not peer-reviewed. It has not gone through credible, scientific, rigorous peer review in a journal. It is unpublished still, and there was a lot of press around it, But it is, that's why we included it in our report and then discussed about the fact that it has many shortcomings and failings, and it certainly is not proof that data centers have heat island effect.
Thank you for that.
Okay,
Thank you.
hold on, Commissioner Flores had a follow-up.
Yeah. Anytime I go to the water utilities, they constantly measure a lot of things, and they have these beautiful panels, and you can see the temperature and everything that's happening. And my question to you is, can't we do that for sound?
Sorry, for
A live feed of sound as or periodic throughout the day, or
I'm going to get Mr. Bastos.
or once a day, because like annual is. Can we measure
I think we're done.
sound at intervals? We do, right?
They have airport monitoring systems that do monitoring of sound. The trick with a lot of those systems and the challenge well, the difference is in an airport monitoring system, what you're monitoring is the single event noise, because the aircraft is pretty noticeable, correct? I mean, when an aircraft is flying over, it's a single event, and it's substantially different than the background level. So that is a much easier thing to analyze and detect. There's what's called a signal-to-noise ratio. And so there's a high signal-to-noise ratio there, meaning that the signal, the aircraft, is easy to pick out from the measurement data. When you have a system in a situation like this where you have a highway, you have a power plant, you have a concrete batch plant, you have an asphalt plant, or you have other sources, it's a little bit more complex to pull out the signal that is of interest.
You're about to build an AI center. The AI can't do that for us? What I'm trying to get to, I don't like the idea of once a year. I would like a constant feed or report that you submit monthly to us with maybe, I don't know, a handful of results so that we can track that you're actually keeping within the guidelines and not once a year. I'm pretty sure there's some equipment out there that you go put on a pole and we can measure the decibels.
Okay.
I'm trying to put
I'm with you.
guardrails.
I'm just asking whether it can actually be done because of the science. So I just asked, can it actually be done? It's not as simple as it's, and nothing is in this is as simple as it sounds, pun intended. But that it can be done. If that is what you need done, then we will do that. We will.
I mean,
another
I've heard
condition?
over and over and over from every single person that has come up here that noise is one of their main concerns here.
100%. And that's why we will agree. It's just, I had to know it could actually be done scientifically. It's tough, but we will do it.
That's Scott's having a
No, I
hard.
just want to make sure because we're updating conditions.
Yeah, I asked.
Are you saying monthly?
I want them to submit something to us monthly with maybe once a week they do a test or something. I'll let you guys figure that out while we continue working on this. On this side. We're cooking over here.
That's post-operation, right? Just so we're clear, it's not starting like, next week. Because it's about the operational impact. We have to do the study before anyway.
No. What I'm talking about is once, let's say this thing does get approved.
Yes, sir.
I want some guardrails to make sure that you guys are living up to that conditional
Understood.
approval.
Okay, Commissioner Marino, you are next.
Hi there. On page 21 of your report, you talk about the schools, and that's the slide you had up there. And it says the LAEQ 1 hour 44, LCEQ 1 hour 56. I'm guessing, and I am guessing, that is outside of the building. Is that correct?
So this is the chart that Dr. Bruner had brought up earlier. You had showed it. I didn't. So that's the chart. So that's the chart she's talking about.
Okay, so
It was on, it was on this one also.
yeah, okay, so that's outside the building.
It's outside the building. because there's been a lot of talk about the kids in the school, and this is I'm trying to get to what a child will hear while they are inside the building.
Okay, so that was addressed earlier as well, but when we're talking about the A-weighted, I'll deal with A and C. So at the moment we have, there's 44 and 56. So in terms of A-weighted, the difference because of the structure, we talked about the fact that the building was built to withstand hurricane conditions, and so therefore the structure is quite significant. So the reduction in terms of A-weighted from outside to inside will be at least 20 decibels. So inside, I would say it'd be less than, say, 25 to have a round number. In terms of the C, it won't be as significant, but even if we take, say, 10 decibels only, that puts us into 46. The American National Standard Institute requirement was, we quoted it in our report, I don't remember exactly, but it's
35.
35 dBA and 55 dBc inside. We will be well below that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. That's my only question. Well, I got lots of questions, but that's...
Commissioner, just very quickly. That is the standard for any mechanical kind of equipment outside of school to make sure that inside the school, the children will not be interrupted in learning, won't distract them or anything. So that ANSI standard is applied across the United States. And in fact, it very rarely actually gets to institute because it's very hard to achieve that. So that's why we're saying, and if you look at the levels here that we have already, the 56 and 68, that's why, again, I'm sure, we haven't heard any complaints from the school and the children learning right now with the louder levels now, and that's quite likely why, because of the construction of the school and how well it's built and designed.
Thank you.
Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you. Are you all familiar with a project called Fairwater? No. So Fairwater is a 450 megawatt data center in Racine, Wisconsin, using the closed loop cooling system.
None of these are experts on this, but they don't know that one.
Okay, well, they're having issues with that with noise. There's currently a lawsuit. And I don't have the details of the lawsuit. I'm aware of it, and that Microsoft has said that it's a Microsoft facility, and they have, it's been reported that they didn't realize how much noise it was going to make, that their initial plans or initial studies did not predict this. And so I think it's important.
So again, maybe that was...
It's a closed loop system.
I understand.
It's relatively new.
But
and there is no other that I'm aware of at this point, nothing at this scale. And that was the question that Marcy asked about. There's nothing at this scale.
So again, we're talking about 280,000 square feet on today's agenda, and I can't speak to the other owners, right? But the point of this is, and I'm not being facetious about this.
I understand.
Dr. Olson testified that there are ones he would not have worked on because they wouldn't have done what was done here. So maybe the folks in Racine did not. I understand what you're saying, but that's why we continue to say yes to the conditions, including the continuous monitoring. We can only have based on what's before this board.
I understand.
And we are doing everything we can to say, yes, we will absolutely confirm that it will be met. That's why we're agreeing to those conditions.
Commissioner Sachs? Oh, you turned your light off. Are you? Sorry. Commissioner Flores?
All right, I'm gonna talk to staff now. I know, I'm sorry. I know you guys are working over there. What are the current conditions of approval of the current project? Are there any?
For data center?
for data center and the entire master plan.
There are no conditions for data information and processing on the current development order.
So, let me, hold on. So what you're telling me is that in 2016, when this thing got approved, we didn't put any conditions of approval.
That is what I'm telling you.
Okay. So right now, we have 2,000,
Can you clarify?
I'm sorry,
Wendy,
2 million.
I'm sorry, there were conditions of approval, they just weren't specific to data center,
For
right?
data information and
Right, for
processing.
data information processing.
so there
There were
were
buffering conditions,
some
there were.
buffering, but
things like
nothing that limits or controls any guardrails regarding a data center. No?
No.
No.
There are no.
Okay.
We have a recognition of the master plan. We have conditions on the other site plans for the non-conforming uses, the batch plants. We have engineering conditions for traffic performance standards, plating, a signalization for Southern Boulevard, right turn lane, so there's some engineering conditions.
Okay.
And there's an existing landscape buffer condition for the north and west property line. And the south is new, the east is new. We have prior planning conditions to connect the dots to the land use, and that's it.
Okay. I'm trying to look up my slide again of the original of what's currently approved. Could you bring that up? What?
The master plan? With the
Yeah,
square footages?
what's currently,
The current site plan?
yeah. Is this one right here?
Yes.
So basically, as of where we stand today, there is an approval of 2,020,000 square foot master plan
Master plan,
combined,
right. And
206,000 of,
that 2,020,000, 206,000 has been site planned as data information and processing, and 1,200,000 square feet has been site planned as warehouse.
and then there's an additional 614,000 that
For future, hasn't been site planned
it
yet.
hasn't.
Yeah.
But technically, through administrative, they could
Yes, which they're
apply.
currently in for
There
right
is an
now.
application already today. So today, that 206,000 square
Yes.
feet does not have any guardrails.
No.
The 206, is that right next to Arden?
No, that's on the
It's
western
on the
property
opposite
line.
diagonal, okay. In that particular, they can do pretty much anything they want there. In regards to the system, the cooling system, because there's no conditions of approvals.
There's no conditions, right?
And then, let me ask you this. Let's talk about the administrative process. There's 2 applications out there. I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I protect the Arden residents. What you're telling me is that 206 have no guardrails.
That's what I'm telling you.
Thank you. But there is a 1.2 million of warehouse that there's an application that at some point later on, they're trying to convert it into data center.
Yes.
Through an administrative process,
Yes.
can you, your team, put conditions of approvals?
Yes.
And the same thing would go for the 614 that are currently approved, or that are,
Yes. And our connection is, a lot of it has to do with consistency with the code, but consistency with the plan and getting the appropriate documentation that we need in order to ensure that those substantial impacts aren't going beyond the boundaries for the any project in the EDC flu.
Okay. So basically, and this is what I keep wrecking my mind with, is that essentially they could convert the entire 2,020,000 to.
Right now, their proposal is between the
that.
two owners to
do that.
convert the whole 2,020,000 to data information and processing.
And that 206 would be unprotected?
The 206, they're proposing to revise it, so we
They
would
would revise it.
evaluate it. We would be evaluating that revision.
Okay.
Commissioner Flores, if I can help, we'll agree to the same conditions we have here on our property that is not here. So in those, we'll tell you right now that when the DRO application that is pending, I cannot speak to the 1.2 million warehouse, that would have to be Ms. Dewey.
Right.
But as to all of PBA Holdings property, we would agree to the conditions that we're proposing today. We will also agree to apply at the DRO approval.
Thank you. I saw Ali was just up here. I don't know if you had something else coming up, but I did have a question for you.
Sure.
You talked about the disposal of water.
Yes.
Is that currently where they have to identify where they're going to dispose the water of? Is that currently in the conditions of approval?
It is.
It is. So that is.
Is part of the written condition was provided to the applicant.
And this water can't just be given to anyone. It has to be somebody that's approved to do this.
Yes. Yes. There are facilities that they're designed for this type of industrial wastewater. They qualify to do that kind of work.
It's under number 6, under our water and wastewater service conditions. Discharge from the data center shall not enter the Palm Beach County Water Utilities sanitary sewer system.
Correct.
All releases generated by the data center operation must be hauled off-site and disposed of at a facility outside of Palm Beach County Water Utilities service area, such as an approved treatment plant, reservoir, or other authorized disposal location, to ensure no discharge enters the Palm Beach County Water Utilities system. The following requirements apply. Interior floor drains serving the building that contain data center operations must be completely independent of the Palm Beach County Water Utility sanitary sewer system and must discharge to the appropriately sized containment tanks. Each containment tank shall have a minimum storage capacity equal to 125% of the volume of the largest isolatable section of the data center located within the building interior. Palm Beach County Water Utilities will only accept domestic wastewater generated from areas of the development not associated with data center operations.
And if I can add to it, the reason that we're not accepting the wastewater from this facility is no different versus any other cooling towers that are in the county that they may generate wastewater. The ordinance for that has been in effect for years. So nothing specific for this applicant versus any other industrial. If they're going to generate cooling wastewater, we're just not going to accept it.
Thank you.
Sure. And if I can, for your previous question, I think in terms of what we have to cover, the previous approval, in addition to what Wendy said, for the water side, we covered existing, approved today, tomorrow for the entire this site. They cannot have more than 100,000 gallons per day. And that's based on what we provided to the applicant and based on the system capacity and what we can produce or not. So we cover for the water part of it.
Thank you, Ali. I appreciate that. Hey, Brian, I got one last question for you. This is just between us. Okay, just between us. Who is the operator of Project Tango? What tech company? Do we know?
That's the decibel level you're getting.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I don't see any other lights. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Powell
Commissioner Marino, you want to go first?
or Commissioner Marino?
So earlier it was referenced that we were going to have 3 football fields worth of fans. Can you please clarify that? Is that one of your questions? Oh, good, we think alike.
I had that question too.
You had that, all right. I think that was a question that we all had.
Yeah, so we didn't say it,
So
but we
for
can,
transparency-
we'll get Mark can talk about the fans.
Sure.
Mr. Bastich, sorry. I'm getting very tired.
No problem. But I think it's a question worth answering in public.
Sure. I don't have footprint in terms of area, but I have numbers. So there are 3 fans per bay. So a bay is 3 fans. And I do have totals, so I'll do the math for you because I did it before. On the smaller buildings, there are 36 bays. On the 2 larger buildings, there are 54 bays. So in total, there are 216 bays. Each bay has 3 fans. That is 648 fans.
Okay.
And that was included in the acoustical model.
Could I ask a follow-up?
Absolutely.
Just to clarify, are these fans just on the data center buildings, or are these also on the warehouses?
These are the fans that were on the data center buildings.
648 fans on the data center buildings. Okay.
And that's what's generating noise.
Correct.
Okay. And then on the warehouse buildings? Is that a question that's part of this?
No. Not in the, well, in the model, they modeled the warehouses, but the systems are very different, right? So the fans, and again, not every fan is the same fan, but the warehouse buildings will have to meet all code, they'll have to go through their process. They are incorporated into the condition on the noise.
And where will all these fans be?
The roof at the top, they're on the top of the building? They're on the rooftop.
Okay. Thank you. And so they're included in the height when they've been referenced at 70 feet. They're included in that height?
I'm getting a lot of shaking heads, yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How big are these fans? I know you said you can give us the number. So 648 fans, how big are they? The football field size, I know maybe you can't compare that, but is it a fan?
Well, yeah, it's definitely, it's not squared, right? So necessarily, but they're pulling the data. So if you give me 1 second, Commissioner Powell.
He's finishing up. Do you have more questions?
I do.
So it's in meters. I can't multiply by anything, but
No, math wasn't required.
I tried to simplify a little bit in a sense to ask what it really means. What it means is it's the roof of the utility buildings, right? That's what effectively, those minor utility buildings that were shown on the plans, it's the rooftop of that.
So the fans will just be encompassed on top of the roofs?
Yes.
Okay. Just going through a few things I wrote down. Thickened arteries and in vascular disease, is that something that will happen or potentially could happen?
So I'm going to ask Dr. McConney he's going to have to introduce himself because he didn't testify earlier to answer the question because he is the leading public health expert.
Is he sworn in?
He was sworn in. He's been here all day.
Okay, thanks, Doc.
You just have to introduce yourself. Doc.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Robert McCunney. I'm a practicing physician in Boston. I'm also a member of the Harvard Medical School faculty and a visiting scientist at the Harvard School of Public Health. I'm trained in internal medicine, and I'm also board certified in occupational and environmental medicine. The latter specialty is concerned with health implications of exposures to hazards, whether that's in the general environment or the occupational environment. Originally, I was focused primarily on the occupational environment, and in the course of my practice, I'm concerned about exposure to any hazard. It could be asbestos, it could be something as simple as mold, it could be solvents, it could be particulates. And noise, of course, is a hazard, potentially. Certainly in occupational settings, there's been high noise levels. We talked about levels today of 40 and 50. It's not uncommon in some occupational settings to have noise levels as high as 80 and 90. In fact, the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health has a standard that if noise levels are above 80, the workers need periodic audiometric testing, and as you were suggesting, Commissioner Flores, periodic noise monitoring to determine whether people need to be in what's called a hearing conservation program. So in this particular case, I was asked by the applicant here if I would look into whether there was any potential health implications, either to the residents at Arden or frankly to the school children. So to undertake this project, I first conducted first of all, I've published a fair amount on noise in peer-reviewed literature. I've given lectures for about 10 years in a row at Harvard on noise and health, and I've written book chapters. I'm not trying to do this, but I have some experience with noise and health. So I was asked to evaluate, particularly in this case, whether noise may adversely affect, as I said, the health of the nearby residents. So what I did to undertake this project, I first of all looked at the peer-reviewed scientific literature. There are a number of people today that talked about Google searches. Well, the so-called Google of medical research is done by the National Library of Medicine, and it's called PubMed. I mean, anybody here could do it. You get on the PubMed website and you write noise and health or whatever you want to put into it, and you'll get a whole series of references. So I started out, first of all, looking at data centers, whether there were any recent articles on data centers in the peer-reviewed literature, and I was surprised that there were none. So when you have no peer-reviewed literature, then you go to what's called the gray literature, which are articles that are published, they're put out there, but they haven't gone through the peer review process. And I did uncover that that data center in Virginia, because there was a legislative report that was released to the internet. And I looked at that, and I also looked at the two gentlemen here, Dr. Broner, because the low-frequency noise was raised as an issue. I also worked with Dr. Bastich. We met for about an hour every week for about 2 months to make sure I knew what Mr. Bastich did, what Dr. Broner was doing, because fundamentally there's an expression in our field called the dose makes the poison. In plain English, it means the higher the exposure, the higher the risk. And that principle applies here to noise. For example, everybody knows here in this building that one cigarette's not going to cause lung cancer. But smoke a pack a day for 30 years, you really increase your risk. Everybody knows here, unless you have no liver, that one beer is not going to make you intoxicated. Have 3 or 4 in an hour and you've got a good chance you're going to be intoxicated. That same principle works for virtually any occupational or environmental hazard. And there are some rare examples. I don't want to make a lecture out of this, but then what I did is I said the literature review, and then I looked at the design of this operation with some of the cooling towers being interior and no diesel exhaust. I think someone was raising earlier the issue of asthma and particulates from diesel. And I, of course, thought I would have to look into that because diesel emissions, first of all, diesel particulates are a carcinogen by the International Cancer Agency for Research on Cancer. And so I thought that would be more of a problem. But then I was told there's no diesel generators in this project. That gave me a sense of relief. And then I would really need to focus on noise. So what I did in these studies, and I had a lot of experience with noise and health in general, and you look at what are called epidemiological studies. These are large studies where you have large groups of people, And that's, you're evaluating them for some health impact. And then you have what's called an exposure, and that could be exposure to asbestos, silica, talc, you could go right down the list. And you try to see whether there's any link between the exposure and whatever adverse health effect you're looking for. What does that have to do with fibroacoustic disease and thickening of the arteries? Based on my review, and I've looked at some of those articles that originally came out of Portugal with respect to what they called vibroacoustic disease that was attributed to low frequency noise. And it's really makes me feel uncomfortable in public settings to have to criticize other people's work. But to be candid, it wasn't high quality work. And then I looked at other studies where astronauts and other people were exposed to extraordinarily high levels of low frequency noise with no adverse effect. So the bottom line is, I think this project is safe, frankly, and I've been in other settings like Dr. Olson where I wouldn't really get myself involved. But after looking at the noise modeling, looking at the ambient noise measurements, and all these calculations with the scientific literature, I don't think the people will even worry about the data center after a while, to be candid.
Everybody, please. Doc, that was riveting. That was amazing. I learned a lot in that answer.
Sorry to go on so long.
But yeah,
it was way of answering your question.
It was a lot. It was a lot. But the simple answer: can low frequency noises caused by the data center, or a data center, in this case, this one, and will it cause potentially? Could it cause individuals to have hardened arteries? Could it maybe, which would lead to either a heart attack or stroke?
No, in my view, no.
Okay.
And largely because the noise levels aren't high.
It's hard stop. Thanks, Doc. I'm not trying to cut you off, but I learned a lot. It was amazing. It was riveting. I tell you.
Actually, I had a follow-up, just to clarify, sir. Just to clarify, did I hear you say that there were no actual peer review studies that you could find?
Not specifically related to data centers. There's been a lot of peer-reviewed studies with respect to noise and health, everything from railroads to airports to wind turbines, but not with data centers.
Yeah, that's right. Are there any peer review studies specifically related to this? And they haven't been done yet, is what you're telling us.
No.
Okay, thank you. There's several lights. Did someone have a follow-up for him?
I just had.
Or is this a new question?
You asked my question.
Okay.
You asked the same question,
Okay.
and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect question.
Can I ask a point of question? I thought we were in rebuttal now. And I mean, what we just went through is 30 minutes more of presentation.
No, we are in board discussion now.
Okay, so we're done with rebuttal and you're just doing.
Yes. And then,
These were all answers to questions, and they were questions that were asked by the public earlier and questions of this, but my rebuttal was done a while ago.
yeah, his rebuttal has been completed, the board discussion, and I apologize, but we're going to go as long as we need to get this right.
Understood.
Okay? Were you finished with your questions, Commissioner Powell?
The only question, two questions. One, I don't know if they addressed data centers catching on fire. Did I miss
That question was not answered. He did ask that earlier.
I mean, are there a lot of data centers catching on fire?
So the fire chief was here. So I'm sure he can answer the question as well. Oh, he's here. He's not looking, he's looking mad at me though.
It means,
so
they must be catching on fire.
He's the fire chief. So I think that from that perspective,
Can you
the
come
chief
down?
would be the best person to answer the question.
Would he, because I don't know if there's a lot of data centers in Palm Beach County.
I don't think he's limited his experience to Palm Beach County.
No, it's not. It's related to anywhere. Have you seen that these data centers are catching on fire? I heard that there's a particular brand of EV vehicle, not gonna name it, no, that is catching on fire. But our data centers catching on fire.
Commissioner, good evening. Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Dave Woodside, Assistant Fire Chief, Fire Rescue, of course. Really from our data from around the state fire marshals have been looking at these type of things, EV vehicles, as well as data centers, and the focus where fires are really with EV vehicles, not data centers. However, this data centers are new. like I mentioned before, and for the good of the group, I talked to Wayne Sloan, who is the technical director for UL this afternoon, to ask the question: is UL underwriters laboratories that actually write the standards for safety around the country? What are we doing? What are they doing? What are they testing for data centers to help us in the future? And it's a conversation that is nationwide. And he shared that from a fire safety perspective, where we have now with a dual system pre-action system, and which is chemical system as well as the fire sprinkler system in the data center, there is no new movement as far as UL goes with their testing to move that forward. So right now, from a fire safety perspective, we are status quo from underwriters laboratories. What he further said is they're looking at communication center holistically under two NFPA codes, NFPA 75 and NFPA 76, and they're going to begin doing testing for that. So that's the latest with fire safety with data centers.
Chief Woodside, thank you for that. As a follow-up to that question, the concern that individuals have had is the battery, the electric battery that will be used, and the ability to put it out if it were to catch on fire. Is that a concern as well? Or do you know, based on your previous answer, I would assume that may not be a concern. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct, because in buildings and in building systems, what the fire protection systems are totally different. Again, pre-action system as well as sprinkler system. They use beam detectors, actually in some of them with AI, so the response to those in-building systems are totally different.
Thank you.
Commissioner Flores, did you have a follow-up?
Not for the chief.
Oh, okay. I did have, Chief, don't go away yet. Sorry. Just so that I do understand, you said that you've had discussions, national discussions. They're looking at it. Do you know, are there plans for future testing on how these facilities maybe should be constructed, fireproofing, different technology? I mean, is it in the process, or are they just saying, don't worry, everything's fine?
With Underwriters Laboratory, there's always ongoing testing on different levels, and that's why with our conversation today, we talked about NFPA 75 specifically and NFPA 76, but there was no testing right now for additional extinguishing systems requirements for the data center.
And as I understand it, generally to get that testing done usually requires someone who's willing to pay for the research because they feel there's a need for it. And it's a lengthy process, is it not?
Yes and no, without going through that detailed process. NFPA Research Foundation funds a great part of that specifically on the research side, and then the standards side from a business perspective, when they want it certified through UL, that's what the business pays for it.
Okay, and so far, no large data center has wanted to pay for that?
Not as far as I know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Were you completed with your questions?
For Chief, I do have a question for staff. Chief Woodside, I'm good. Thank you for your responses. Team, our staff, with regard to the request, the applicant submitted revisions to the request on April 27th. So the revised preliminary master plan indicates 2,346,564 square feet of warehouse, but 1,032,000 square feet of data and information processing. If this were to be approved today, even with the pending litigation, could we, and it sounds like I know what I'm asking, that it could be correct, could we end up with more than what is being approved, more than the 1,032,000 square foot of data and information processing? Could we end up with another 1,000,000 square feet of data and information processing without having to approve it? Is that what could happen if this is approved today?
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Flores?
Hey, Brian. We're on hey status right now. we've gone.
I'm hungry and tired and thirsty, so why not?
We're almost going almost in 12 hours. How many jobs will be created in this site?
So the site, I can't speak to the warehouse, as I've mentioned, but the data information processing is 600 employees. As we mentioned earlier, there's 3 shifts, 200 each.
So you're saying 600 employees are going to be in this data center?
Over 3 shifts.
Over 3 shifts. Doctor, can I talk to you?
We have a lot of doctors. Dr.
The
McCunny?
the one with the
Harvard?
nice shirt. The Harvard scholar.
It's Brooks Brothers, a nice shirt.
I'm sorry, I did not write down your name, doctor, so I apologize. So my question to you is, you said that from a health perspective, this would not affect the neighbors.
In my view, that's correct, and I'm making that decision primarily based on the noise measurements that have been conducted and also the noise measurements that have been modeled, and contrasting those results with the scientific literature. And frankly, my own personal experience being a physician in this area for 40 years.
How about the 600 people working there?
Well, that's a good question.
That's a great question. If I say so myself.
Frankly, if that were asked of me, I obviously don't practice down here, but the first thing they ought to do is do noise monitoring. Find out what the workers were exposed to. When I was director of environmental medicine at MIT, that's a huge operation with a big plant, and there's chilled water plants, there's all kinds of noise exposure with construction. Those workers have to be monitored. So I would suggest the same here. Let's make sure the workers are safe too. It's easily enough done. There's all kinds of criteria. NIOSH, which is the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, part of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, has a noise standard for occupational exposure, and it dictates the periodic level of monitoring, whether people need to be trained and tested for their hearing and so forth. So I think it's a good idea. I don't
Hold on, before Brian gets back on.
It's already on the plate. It's already on the plate. OSHA, there are OSHA requirements.
Yeah.
Okay.
Long-winded way of saying yes.
There's been OSHA requirements and other stuff, and people have still.
Yeah, the noise standard's been around for a good 40 years, at least.
40. Would you be willing to make that same recommendation about the employees as you think that for the?
I think there's a noise. When I used to teach the residents this, I'd say you can tell whether you need to have the OSHA standard. Extend your hand, and if you have to raise your voice to have the other person hear you, you got a pretty noisy environment. Anyway, that's kind of a flippant way of answering it. There's official noise monitors that can be used to determine the noise levels at work and determine what needs to be done.
Would you be willing to buy a house in Arden and to send your schools to the school?
Based on what I know, why not? It looks like a very nice community. We went to the school area. It's a very appealing community, frankly.
Okay, thank you.
Please.
Although I'm happy in Boston.
Commissioner Sachs?
Doctor, just 1 second. Did you do your testing at a hyperscale AI center, sir? Doctor, the Harvard man. Let's get the Harvard man up here. Where was the data center that you did your testing on?
Oh, I
sir?
didn't do any.
Okay, thank you.
The data center.
I'm ready to make an argument and then make a motion.
Okay.
If my colleagues are done.
I need to amend my disclosures.
Okay, we have an amendment of disclosures. Commissioner Flores and Powell, go ahead. Commissioner Flores?
So I'm going to go through this whole thing again because, all right, I have written communication that's been filed with the clerk. Verbal communication I've had with Ernie Cox, Fergus Davidson, Enrique Tomau, Steve Abrams, Brian Seymour, John McGovern, Cliff Hurt, Tara Dewey. I also met with some Arden residents, Daniel Jackson, Kathleen Williams, Nathan Galan, Rachel Smith, and Sue Loisel. My staff met with Sharon Merchant, Janice Rittenauer, Tatiana Yakas, Christina Reichs, Reynaldo Diaz, and John Eubanks. And I also did a site visit on May 12th. Thank you.
Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In addition to the disclosures that I did earlier, I would also like to disclose that I also spoke with and met with Cliff Hertz and Joe Verdone and I had verbal communication with Gordon Longhofer, president of the Classroom Teachers Association, as well as written communication from Gordon Longhofer as well.
All right, thank you. With that, I believe everyone has asked all the questions at this point, so we can now just move on to each commissioner's comments for discussion and argument before we would take a vote. So we could start on my left. Commissioner Sachs, would you like to go first?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Vice Mayor. I'm very impressed with everybody today. I'm going to start to my left. I think that the applicant has made an excellent presentation. And I appreciate all that you have done to move this forward. I think that it's probably been one of the most professional projects that I have seen done, and a lot of that is thanks to Mr. Seymour, although he's not listening to me, which is good. And the people to my right, those of you experts have put together from the organizations at Arden, you've done an excellent job. Knowing that this is a grassroots organization, that you did it from your heart. You did it for your homes. You didn't do it for a business or for economic development. You did it to protect your homes and your families. And there's nothing more important, in my estimation, than when you do something from your heart. And I can see that that came out in your passion, your advocacy. And I tell you, anybody who has sat here for all these hours and listened to this great conversation up here, you deserve a great plus. Thank you so much. You've done your community proud. And to our staff, you've done a lot of work on this. I would like to see, as we progress as Palm Beach County, that we hire our own experts, that we do it with the idea that we need to get up to speed when it comes to different applications that want to come here to this wonderful place we call paradise. I'm going to give you an example. Google's development of self-driving technology began in October of 2009. I know that because I was in the Florida House when the first Google car came out so that we could arrange legislation for driving these self-driving cars. And I went in one. I wasn't too excited about it because it was just me and this big computer on the roof back in those days, but it was exciting. It was a new technology. Today, Waymo is the American autonomous driving technology company. Provides 500,000 paid drives every week. So from 2009 to 2026, this company called Google has really developed a great technology. But it didn't start out that sweet. Back in the days when this was developed in a garage in California. Today, what we're looking at is hyperscale data centers that we need. And we need them throughout the country because of the technology that's expanding. And they're all coming here to Florida. In fact, I've asked questions to our different experts, but nobody had seemed to visit any of the 120 data centers that are in Florida today. We are the 4th largest state in the country for data centers. And I wanted to get an answer from an expert saying, I know that data center. It's in such and such a county. I've been there, and I know how the noise and the water reacts the Florida way, which is our aquifers, our water coming out of Lake Okeechobee, our humidity, but no one had seemed to have been or visited any of the 120 data centers that exist here in Florida. And I think it's important because we're Florida, we're different. I think we're very cool as a state, and I think that we do need data centers. But like Google in 2009, we got to start small. And so the experts that we have heard from the applicant, and these are the same experts that the county used to determine that this would be a good place to put a data center, had not visited any of these data centers, and nor had their expert opinion been based on a data center of this magnitude. This is important to me in making my decision, because you can't tell me how high that mountain is until you scaled it. It looks a lot higher maybe when you're on the ground looking up, or maybe it looks a lot smaller when you're halfway up. But I want to know that someone who has been there to the top of that mountain and would say to me, in my expert opinion, this is what we're looking at for noise, for water, for issues of health, for our children and our families at Arden. It didn't happen. I did not hear it. And I kept asking it. I never got the answer that I was looking for to determine how high that mountain is. So I think that a data center can be built anywhere. Because we learned that you don't need that aquifer. I've been to Palm Beach aggregates many times. I know Ernie Cox, and I love you. We've worked for, all the years I was in the state legislature, I came out to Palm Beach aggregates. It's very important. And I've enjoyed working with you and seeing what you're doing out there, Mr. Cox. And I came out for this particular project and did a tour there. But it seems to me that big aquifer that we have at Palm Beach aggregates, we don't need it for this data center. And if you recall the one question I asked, can we get this water from any place else in the state of Florida? And the answer is sure. Now, we get it from Ali Bayat here in our Palm Beach water, which is great water, but we could get it from Union or Dixie or Hendry County, because you don't need that aquifer to make this big hyperscale. So we could have another hyperscale AI data center anywhere else in the state of Florida, not necessarily Palm Beach, not necessarily at Palm Beach aggregates, not necessarily next to a new community like Arden. I also asked FP&L, how many of these huge FP&L mega centers do we have? Well, we have many. We have one in Riviera Beach. We have a couple more. So we could actually use that data, that FP&L mega center anywhere else in the state of Florida, even Palm Beach County. It does not have to be right next to Arden. We do not need to build a hyperscale AI center right next to Arden because of that huge FP&L plant that is there. That's the second thing. So I do think that from the experts that we heard and the experts that were hired by the applicant, that we could build a hyperscale AI center anywhere else, either in Palm Beach County, but not next to Arden, or anywhere else in the state of Florida, because you don't need the particular assets that Palm Beach aggregates gives to build that AI center. And those questions I asked were important because of the answers. And the answers is we get the water anywhere else, and we can get the electricity anywhere else. And I think that that was important because we don't have to do it right there next to Arden. And to me, that's very, very important. So this is a technology that is building, it's opening, and one day maybe we'll have, hyperscale AI centers in the sky. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't pretend to be, but I do know one thing. This hyperscale does not have to be built right here next to Arden. It's just not the right location for this type of technology. And I think that's important because we need them, but we need to find the right locations. And I would hope that one day when this technology is perfected and we have experts who are may I say it, much younger than me, that will know about the technology of sound. I did not hear one expert say, I heard the drum at a hyperscale AI center. I know what it does to people, animals. I personally, professionally, don't know the answer to that, but neither do our experts. They compare it to the middle C of a piano. They compare it to noise here in this room. But that's not what we're doing. We're dealing with noise, the hum that comes from an AI center. And I never heard any expert say, I was there. I was there, I tested it, and I know professionally it does not affect humans or animals. So until we are ready, till we have the scientists, till we have the science and the technology, and I'm looking at young people all over this county, that will give us the expertise to build this, we're not ready. We are not ready. And we are not ready, and we're not going to use guinea pigs to see if what affects it happen, what occurs. So I respect the fact that the applicant put a lot of work and got a lot of scientists, and I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I respect the fact that we have scientists and experts from Arden, but this is not the place to build something that we don't have one scientist, one expert to say, I've been to one of these, it's okay. I'll put my scientific background on it. Until then, I cannot accept something like this at that area pursuant to this application. Thank you, Madam
Commissioner
Vice Mayor.
Sachs. Commissioner Weiss, would you like to weigh in?
Thank you. Like my colleague Commissioner Sachs just said, I do want to acknowledge the applicant and the case that you put on, and it was very, very well done. To the folks from the community that have turned out, thank you for being here, sharing your thoughts, some evidence as well. You know, I understand people get passionate, and that's to be expected, and I thought the way you all conducted yourself was actually very, very good, and so I want to thank you for that, because I do understand this is personal. This is your neighborhood. This is your investment in your home. These are your children. These are your family members, and I certainly understand and respect that. And quite frankly, you know, if you, as my wife likes to remind me, I stood on street corners begging people to let me do this. And so, you know, when sometimes people say things that maybe they're a little heated, you don't take them personal. And so just acknowledging that. There's a couple things that I do want to talk about. One is, I've heard also a lot of bad information, misinformation, disinformation, and I don't believe that's intentional. I believe that people are genuinely trying to figure things out, but nonetheless, things get repeated that are not true. And to the extent people are saying, well, why do you ask questions? You know, you should know this stuff. A lot of the time, it's trying to get things on the record. It's trying to bring things out and do that. It's not because we don't know the answer. It's because we want to hear or get somebody to say that answer. And so I understand that could be challenging not to comprehend. You do. I'm sure you comprehend it. So, and I don't mean to be demeaning. But I do want to be clear that, you know, and sometimes I will pipe in and try and correct the record if I hear something that I know is patently not true, or that there's more to the story, and maybe it comes across not in a good way. So if that's the case, I apologize. But There was a couple of other things that people mentioned that I want to talk about. Moratorium. People getting passionate about our moratorium. A moratorium does not apply to any applications that are in process. It's not fair to them, and it is under statute. It is the law of the state of Florida, and we will follow that. So I understand your request, but it's just not possible. And then also heard complaints about, well, how do you even allow them to do this? Everybody has the right to bring an application in front and petition their government. That's in our Constitution. And so they have that right, and there is a process for that. The process is outlined, and staff will help people bring them through, but we have to hear that case. You can't tell somebody, I don't like that, you don't have an opportunity to have your case adjudicated. That's why we're here. So understand it's not our choice, and it is everybody's right. You may not like it, I may not like it, but it's their right, and we have to do our best to hear everybody out and try and come up and make a solution, and come up with the solution. I have deep reservations about this. Deep reservations, but understand what we're talking about. We're talking about the application that is in front of us. This has nothing to do what was approved previously. And I've tried to ensure that we've asked staff, I've asked the applicant, everybody, of what is in front of us. And that is an additional square footage. There's 2 million square feet that have already been allocated to this property, and they have a right to develop that property with the uses that are allowed under our code at the time their application was approved. This is an additional request. I believe the record contains substantial evidence, including public testimony, that this use will generate a continuous low-frequency noise and other impacts that extend beyond the property line. That proposal then would be inconsistent with our comprehensive plan and the Glades Area Protection Area. So while I understand that they are likely to build a data center on the rest of their property, I am not, and this is not about a data center, this is not about Project Tango, this is about additional square footage on a previously approved master plan. So that's where I stand on this.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores?
So like my fellow commissioners, I want to thank the applicant for being extremely thorough, for investing and bringing expert witnesses from, sounds like, around the world to make sure that you answered the questions that a lot of the community had, because I know that was important to you guys. To our residents in our community, you guys, for the most part, did pretty good, 95%. We had a little outburst towards the end. I can understand it. I've been doing this for a while, where we get passionate about things, and sometimes you feel like you're not being heard. And I can understand where you're coming from. So, I try to, anytime I'm up here, I try to weigh both options, the pros, the cons, how I would feel, how my kids would feel, how my neighbors would feel, what the impact to the community is. And as I was going through this, I realized that this is already approved. So that's kind of, for me, I was not here in 2016. For me, that was a starting point. It was a learning process. Already 2 million plus square footage are approved to be built here. How that gets broken down has already been sort of determined. Also learned that there is an administrative process for which they can switch out some of the square footage based on approved usage on this particular site. When I was doing my staff review, and I brought it up here today, I learned that there was no guardrails right now. Right now, there is no conditions of approval. They can do their data center however they like. There is no decibel requirements. There's pretty much nothing at this point in time. So to me, making sure that we have safeguards in place was extremely important coming into this meeting, and I asked you for, I think, 2 additional conditions of approval today, because I want to make sure if this happens, that we have those additional guardrails to make sure that we protect our residents. Every once in a while, we come across an issue like this where it impacts the entire county. This is far greater than just Arden. You won't believe how many people I have encountered at Publix, at my family gatherings, at anywhere, and I don't know about my fellow commissioners, but usually the question is, so where are you on Project Tango? They also asked me about Lion Country Safari. Is that true that they're also building a data? I have not heard that, so, but there's a lot of rumors out there. And I've been trying to be very, I didn't want to say anything, give an answer, or I try to deal in facts. And where I stand today, I think that's what everybody's waiting for. I think everybody's counting, right? Where I stand today is, I don't think this is compatible with the current uses. Compatibility means that there has to be something that is currently happening, and this is not currently happening. This is a first of its own. I will read a statement that I have prepared. Based on the competent substantial evidence presented in the record today, I find that the applicant has not demonstrated that the proposed project is compatible with the surrounding areas and that it adequately protects the public health, safety, and welfare. Specifically, expert testimony and technical evidence raised unresolved concerns regarding operational noise, including low-frequency noises generated by the facility and its associated equipment, and the potential adverse impact on nearby residential properties, school, and employees of this data center. Additionally, the evidence raises unresolved concerns regarding the project's water demand and its potential effects on available water resources, long-term infrastructure capacity. Because of these concerns, I have not been satisfactorily, addressed or mitigated. I cannot conclude that the application meets the applicable approval criteria. For those reasons, I will vote to deny. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regard to, now, my colleagues have been very deep with regard to their comments, very compassionate with their delivery. Thank you to our staff. You have put together a very comprehensive and excellent staff report with analysis that provided all the background information that was necessary to review this application. In addition to that, I was able to review what is online from previous applications and iterations of justification statements that have come up to the community. I don't and we don't, as a board, take your comments lightly. We do want to thank you for expressing your views. There were several things that were said with regard to, even as far as different agencies and organizations. This is, for me, not a partisan issue. You know, there was a club member who came up and recognized those of a certain party. This is not a partisan issue for me. We have a ULDC, Unified Land Development Code, that we review. We also take into consideration public comment and staff reports. You all, we've talked about the idea of being a planner. And there was an AICP certified planner here earlier. Many of us in this room, the number one goal of a planner, y'all know what that is to serve the public interests. That's why we have public hearings. That's why we have these meetings in the public. I know there were candidates who came up and they wanted to get their time on TV and they wanted to make comments, and I know they're looking for endorsements and looking for shots out. This is your shout out. Congratulations. However, the reason we do this in public is so that everybody has an opportunity to weigh in. That's why we do this in public. I will say that to the development team, I think that the presentation was thorough and comprehensive. With everything that was presented today, I have very few questions that were left to chance. The one question I still am concerned with is the addition of additional data center that doesn't have to come back before us. That's the only challenge that I really have. Now, with regard to my thought process and what I've read, and in my professional opinion, I believe that everything that was presented as fact by staff and staff's analysis was correct. Okay? Whether you agree to it or not, I believe that for the individuals who work for Palm Beach County, period, whether it be planning and zoning, whether it be these individuals have studied hard and long. And on top of that, they also study these applications. And the idea is not to do harm to any particular neighborhood. The idea is to review the code and review what's put before us or put before them. I don't work as a planner for Palm Beach County. I'm a county commissioner. But I am AICP certified as well. So I do take exception to the fact that people would come up and say that staff doesn't know what it's talking about, or that the zoning commission knows the ULDC better than staff or better than anybody else. I take exception to that because as somebody who has worked actively as a planner, who's read code every day, and to be dismissed as if you don't know what you're doing, who holds a master's degree, and many of the people here hold master's degrees and additional certifications and pay the certification and take the classes and go to the conferences. We don't take it lightly. It's a real profession, whether you like it or not. People got up here and they talked about their doctorate degrees while dismissing everybody else. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. With that, I will say my challenge is what's approved today, what could potentially be approved in the future. It's not within this, but it's still a question. But I do believe staff did a great job presenting. I do believe that the development team brought all of the information that was required and requested. And I do believe that the community came out and you were passionate with your arguments. I do believe there were people who came out for other reasons, you know, campaigns, it's campaign time, but that's understood too. If If I was running for office, I'd probably do the same. No, I wouldn't. I didn't do that. I've never done that. But I take all of that into consideration. And I want to thank everybody who has come out tonight. I know the hour is long. We started this morning at 9:30 a.m. It's only 9:24 p.m. I was hoping that I alone, me, I would take y'all to 9:30 by myself.
Please stop.
But I guess it's not going to be me. Madam Vice Mayor, those are my comments. I'm done.
Thank you. And Commissioner Marino.
I'll be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. I appreciate the comments of all of our board members. I appreciate all the folks that came out here and sat for 12 hours with us. I appreciate all of your passion. You all did a great job. My 91-year-old mom texted me and said, we need data centers in Palm Beach County. If we don't have them, they're going to go somewhere else. And if I were to be voting today, I would vote yes. And you can all throw sling arrows at me, that's okay. But I think with all the conditions that were put in place and all the conditions that were agreed to, the staff did their job. They are the experts, and the applicant also agreed to paying for whatever staff needed to do. And if we were going to hire folks, we'd be hiring WGI, who you all hired, or the like of that. So while I'm probably not in agreement with the rest of the board, I will take the slings and arrows, but I think this is something that we do need. Right now, there is heavy industrial on that site. No one actually talked about the fact that there is heavy industrial on that site. A little bit. We talked about it a little bit, and you all had your chance. And there is mining on that property right now. There is noise generation from FP&L right now. And when I say that property, I'm talking the whole context of the community, not just the acreage in the front. So anybody who's shaking their head and disagreeing with me, more power to you. That the noise sound that was done and the guarantee is too strong a word, but the monitoring that the applicant put in place, there was a particular point that everyone missed. The modeling would have to prove before they got started that they would meet all the decibel levels. No one's really talked about that. Before they got started. And then if in fact they did build this and it wasn't within the parameters, they don't open their doors. So there you have it. Be brief, be brilliant, and be gone.
Thank you, Commissioner Marino. My turn. I didn't ask as many questions as I normally do. The board did a fantastic job, I think, asking questions today. I did ask how many conditions were on this. I got a sheet in anticipation of if there were a motion to approve. It's lengthy. And that gave me concern earlier on how much we were having to condition this. I did write some stuff down because the hour's getting late. I didn't want to forget. But you brought up that the previous approval had no conditions because the use at that time was a normal thing that had been happening for a long time. Obviously, that is not the case, or we wouldn't have to do all of what we just did to get here. I mean, the state has declared anything over 50 megawatts. FPL actually used the same thing, 50 megawatts. That's a large load user. It's a different use. And I don't argue with the attorney and staff and agenda review often, but we argued on this one because I wanted to know, how can you tell me that there's a previous approval that exists on something that didn't exist? So and I don't think I had trouble with this. Apparently I wasn't the only one because you're telling me there's a previous approval, they have rights, and yet we're having to condition this in so many different ways to make it compatible with the community that's next door and the school that's there. So, and this is quasi judicial, which means we come here today and everyone's alluded to how some of the stuff that was said was that, why are we asking all these questions here today? We're supposed to do that here today. What I needed to hear, what I was hoping to hear, was some way to convince me that this new data center, this new hyperscale, large load user, whatever we're going to call it, this AI center, qualifies to be the same data center it was when it had its previous approval. If anything, I'm more convinced now than ever that it's not. It's, in fact, how many conditions did we actually add today going through this process? Which gives me extreme pause on doing anything like this, because us having to, the 6 of us, beat it up today to try to get this thing conditioned correctly, we can't do this. I mean, this is our comprehensive plan. If it's so out of whack with that, and I know that there's other projects that have had a lot of conditions put on it, and thank you all really for trying to get it there. But just an hour ago, we added another condition. So if we were going to approve this, we need a lot more time, a lot more experts, a lot more conditions, and we don't even know what they are. The fact that this was approved before with no conditions on this, and now we're trying to piece it together, these uses are not compatible. I think Commissioner Flores read the statement perfectly to say that it's not compatible overall. And we've already addressed that we're going to have to create this new category. The state is talking about this. I mean, this is happening everywhere. We're going to have to do it. Please don't tell me that it's already there, because it wasn't. I stand firm on that. These are two different things. And this new one, yes, maybe we got all the conditions that we need. Maybe it's not good enough. I don't know how many more we actually should have. And that's something that's going to have to happen in the right process when we put this together. We have a year to put this together, from what I understand, but we have to get it right, because the decision we make on this is the future, and the technology is going to change again in 5 years. So we have to put it together in a way that is sustainable and makes sense for the long-term future, not just here. We're being watched. You guys, great job. You got a lot of attention on this. So we are being watched around the country even. We have to get it right. Thank you for trying. We all tried, but we didn't get there tonight at 9:30. 12 hours into this, I still don't think we're there, which means we can't approve this, in my opinion. So with that being said, does anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is your motion to say, you actually read a really good thing before, sorry. Does it need to be read again? Nope, it's pretty clear.
I'll make the motion to deny.
So we have motion by Commissioner Flores, a second by Commissioner Weiss. Sorry, yes. Well, I can't hear you.
With prejudice or without prejudice?
But wait, before, I'm sorry, Madam Vice Mayor. This is really a question for the attorney. This with prejudice, without prejudice, I need to know the legal consequences of saying with prejudice or without prejudice.
So with prejudice is they can't file a similar application
year.
for 1 year. Without prejudice, they can file a similar application again. However, we have the moratorium in place.
Right. So it's really moot, because if there's a moratorium, I just want to know, give us the consequences of can we do with or without prejudice if there's a moratorium?
I mean, you can still do with or without prejudice, because there's possibility the moratorium doesn't pass for whatever reason. I mean, we haven't adopted it, the ordinance yet, so.
Since I'm the motion maker, I will do it with prejudice, because it's a year anyways, and we have the moratorium.
Hold on. Question. Can I ask this question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I make this
Commissioner
statement?
Powell?
You got to remember, even though we're in a zoning in progress, we're doing the moratorium, the deal is the moratorium could be up to 1 year. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a year. It could be 6 months. And if it's done in 6 months, if we do this with prejudice, then the applicant still has to wait a full year. But if we do it without prejudice and they come back and they've got some things changed and they work with the community, they could come back within that 6 months, if that be the case. So I'm not telling you how to make your motion, Mr. Commissioner, but I would be comfortable if you did go without prejudice. It's just my thought process.
However, if
Commissioner Sachs?
Yes, this is why I voted against the moratorium, and we haven't really, have we passed the moratorium yet, Mr. Lawyer?
No, we haven't.
Okay, so.
We have a zoning in progress, but the moratorium ordinance is coming back to you in August.
In August. So what we can do is, if we did it with prejudice, then a year would go by, but we don't have to have the moratorium because then it gives unfair advantage to another AI center and gives them a disadvantage because they have to wait a year, but somebody else can come in 6 months, or 8 months. So why don't we, this is a good discussion. I agree that it should be, we haven't passed the moratorium yet, so I agree it would be with prejudice. Give us a year to percolate this, and then that way we'll decide on the moratorium at a later date. But
Could I?
sure, of course.
Sorry, could I ask for clarification, just so that I'm 100% sure? If we do it with prejudice, they have to wait a year from today.
Correct.
If we do it without prejudice, to Commissioner Powell's point, and we manage to create our new category for hyperscale data centers in May of next year,
Right.
would that actually then give them a disadvantage to be able to be a part of the new and improved, fully beat up version that we're going to create? But they also could not come back until that, for this use, until that point.
That they wouldn't be able to come back till we've adopted the regulations. So if those come in May, then they would come back in May with a new application. That's without prejudice, right?
I would like to amend my, my motion to without prejudice. I concur with Commissioner Powell. I don't want to penalize the applicant to have to wait a year when others might be able to come in before that, so.
And I agree. I
Okay,
agree.
so I will make it without prejudice.
I agree, and I think that when we discuss the moratorium, this, of course, will be a good starting point. Also, the regulations from the state will be a little more refined, so that we'll have a little better field to discuss another data center. So yeah, I think that I would go along with that.
Commissioner Weiss, did you want to add?
Yeah, well, as a maker of the second, first off, I will accept, I'll accept that, but I think it's also important to do this without prejudice because they could come back and ask for 100% another use that's allowed on that site
Warehouses.
that is not a data center. And I want them to have that opportunity as well. I don't want to take that away from them.
Okay, so with the motion on the floor is to deny without prejudice. Okay. Do we need to do a roll call? All in favor?
Vice Mayor, sorry, may I be recognized? Can you please clarify, for the sake of the clerk, the maker and the seconder?
Maker was Commissioner Flores, second was Commissioner Weiss. So I believe it was all in favor? Any opposed? We have Commissioner Marino dissenting, so that's 5-1 to deny. Okay, thank you. So then Commissioner Flores, your light is on.
I guess this question is for staff. You now have 2 pending applications administratively. How does this particular vote that just occurred impact your compatibility moving forward? Or how does that, I don't know your administrative process, so I'm trying to understand the vote that just occurred. Does it play into
Well, we
Is it a
will-
factor into the
I
administrative
will-
process?
I have to review it against the standards that we have for administrative, along with the plan and the code. So consistency with the plan, the EDC, that the use, that the proposed use doesn't demonstrate that they have the substantial off-site impacts, they still have to demonstrate that. So we will have to evaluate it just like you did.
Okay.
So everything that the board just directed, though, would carry over into
Administrative.
approvals.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Sachs?
Could we have a report from staff as to the ramifications of this vote? And, because I don't want something to get through, through administrative review, and we don't have any say-so in it.
To be clear, we do not have say-so, but the board is giving clear direction at this point on how we feel about this use and its compatibility with our comprehensive plan.
Yes.
So that would
before-
be considered by staff, would it not?
Yes.
I would appreciate, yeah.
Yes.
So that if it comes, no, it will come before you for administrative review. I want to know what's going on out there. So if you could, I would appreciate it. And I know my colleagues would as well. Tomorrow you got the day off.
Attorney wishes to weigh in here?
What's happening?
What's happening with what?
I don't know. Why are you guys looking at me?
Oh, you had your light on.
Oh, I did? I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry, your light came on. No, at that point, she had a comment, so do we have any comments from, all right, hold on, before we get to that, any comments from county attorney?
No.
Comments from zoning director?
No, I think I'm done.
Thank you. Comments from planning director?
No.
Executive director?
I just want to obviously thank staff for, that was a very heavy lift, and they have done an amazing job. So just getting to this point, thank you, staff, and everyone that came together to make sure that this day came together well. And yesterday, everybody did a great job, and we thank our partners for being here, for supporting us as well. Thank you.
But you can continue.
Okay. Are you back in?
No, you can keep the guy.
Okay. Assistant County Administrator?
Just really quickly pile on Whitney's comments. Thank you to the clerk's office. Thank you to our deputies who were here. We've had so many people these last 2 days. Thank you to the board. You pulled 2 long meetings, not counting last week's meeting as well. So thank you all. Enjoy your break starting today.
Tomorrow's off?
You can have tomorrow off. But let me add, you did receive an email earlier. We had the discussion last night about the 8/18 meeting and the conflict it had with the primary. We're going to move that meeting to August 25. You received an email this morning.
Is that something that everyone needed to
Yes.
agree to, or is Commissioner Powell, is there an issue?
That was our,
Okay.
So wrong, I'm not even going to look.
Okay, so, all right, then we will go to Commissioner comments. Commissioner Sachs, we'll start with you.
Thank you so much. I want to thank my colleagues. I really enjoyed this, the late hour especially. Of course, you guys are amazing up there at staff. I'm always glad you're in front of us, all right? But I do want to be sure that anything that occurs on an application for AI, if it's administrative, that we know about it before it proceeds, because I just want to know about it. We spent a lot of time on this, the new technology, and thank you. So I know that you'll do that. Thanks, Mr. Hernandez. Thank you.
Commissioner Weiss?
Great job.
Thank
Nancy.
you. Thank you, Vice Mayor. To staff, thank you. Thank you to the people back that are behind you all that have done a tremendous amount of work. Please think, what we did tonight had no reflection on you all or the quality of the work. 100% believe in what you all do. This is just, weighing it out, and so, but very much appreciate you, and to our to the security in the building, to all the staff that helps.
If everyone wouldn't mind,
go.
if you're going to have conversations, please step outside.
Really appreciate what you all done. It's now almost 9:45, and so let's go home.
Commissioner Flores?
We can still kick people out, right? No, I'm just kidding. I want to just thank staff. You guys did a phenomenal job. You guys were resilient. You answered all of our questions. You kept it together today, so thank you. I know that there's been a lot of work leading up to this meeting. You have been nimble, flexible, resilient, so thank you so much for that. And to my colleagues, I want to thank you for the questions. I think together we worked on this one to flush it out, get all the answers that we needed, and hopefully we made Palm Beach County better today. Anyways, I would like to request an offsite proclamation declaring July 20th, 2026 as Pastor John Renee Day, and declaring July 30th, 2026 as National Intern Day.
We have a second by Commissioner Weiss. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I see that passes unanimously. Anything else? Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Commissioner Flores talked about National Intern Day. Earlier today, one of my interns, Jonathan Jones, was here, and he is at the University of Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, Jonathan had to leave, so I do want to, and when we come back into session or back into our next commission meeting, Jonathan will likely be back in Philadelphia attending college. So, Jonathan, if you're watching, congratulations. Thank you for being a great intern for the third year in a row. For me, I do want to thank everybody for coming out. I really just want to echo my comments. Staff did an excellent job in terms of its presentation. I really believe that all the conditions that were put out and put forth were thoughtful, and the intentions, it was a well-intentioned proposal by the applicant and very thoughtful in consideration of what we saw today. What applicant, all of the criteria that you all looked at and reviewed, and I believe that what you did was right by what we have to go by, which is the ULDC. I want to thank all of my colleagues, just, for spending the last 2 days with you guys. I feel we're closer than ever now. At this late hour, we've spent some time together, but I get energized the later we go. We should take this thing into midnight. Hey. No, but I do want to thank everybody as we prepare for a little bit of a recess. We've got a lot of work to do. We've done some work, but we'll continue to work together and get better, and do everything in essence, like I said, to serve the public interest. Remember this, as we prepare to depart tonight, there's one thing I want to leave with you, Commissioner Sachs, and everybody here. A life of service. That's a life that counts. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. I would just like to say thank you, too. It's been a couple of really long days. Oh, my God, it's been long. Go ahead, Commissioner Marino. I haven't heard you enough. Kidding.
No, I appreciate it. Staff, thank you very much. This was a heavy lift for you. I want folks to know our staff are experts. That's why they're here. And if there's a time where they don't feel that they have enough information, they will go and get it. So I just wanted to say thank you for all the work that you put in. And even though the residents have left, thanks for sticking it out with us. And everyone have a nice couple of weeks. Those that are going to NACO, please be safe. County is getting a lot of awards for all of the good work that we do. Doggy Day Out Ambassador Edition is getting an award, yay. And we have 100% adoption rate for all of our dogs that we've brought into Chambers. So just wanted to give an applaud to that, even though it's a late hour. And to my colleagues, thank you for all the hard work and all the good questions. And you know what? We don't always agree, so that's the debate, and that's why we're here. Thank you.
Thank you. I will go this time. Just wanted to thank staff. I know that the conditions, and even though the applicant may be unhappy with us right now, but they gave us a really good beginning of what we need to build. And these conditions, this is a good starting point. I look forward to what we come up with. I think, we're a large chunk of the way there already with this. So thank you. I didn't mean to argue so much in my agenda reviews, but I'm from the South, so even when I argue, I'm nice. But with that, I hope everyone has a good couple of weeks off, and thank you all of my colleagues for this. And for the residents who came out, hopefully maybe a little better understanding of quasi-judicial process with this and why we do have to ask a lot of questions while we're here. And they hung out with us, a lot of them, for most of the day, so it was good. Thank you. And with that, Mayor Baxter is here.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. And I want to just really thank staff and thank all of my fellow commissioners here for doing such a thorough analysis of both sides of this being presented. And thank you for protecting my residents in Arden. It's truly heartfelt. Thank you. And guess what? We all learn and we all move forward. So thank you again. And after 2 very, very long days, I hope we don't see each other for a little bit. Thank you. Tomorrow? No. Have a great one. Adjourned.
Adjourned at 9:50. Thank you all.